This is actually the second time I've quilted this particular block. The first time I quilted it following the road map that I gave you. And I came to find that although the stitches were nice and they looked good in those areas, it was just too hard to get from one point to the other to do the stitches shown on the road map. So I got out my trusty seam ripper, I pulled out all the stitches, and we're going to try this a different way so that we don't have so much backtracking to do in order to accomplish this quilting. Now, when you're thinking these things through, we want to be able to ditch around all the triangles in this block, and the reason for that is we want them to puff up. But we also want to do stitching in the background areas to push the batting down, which will also help to puff up the triangles. So I'm going to do that little trick where you put your pencil down and you just keep tracing around to try to do everything that we need to do without lifting the pencil. So we're going to do that first, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of it. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to start stitching around the block. Now, you can use your ruler, or you can just eyeball it, whichever is comfortable for you. So we're going to come over this way. Now we're going to come down here, but we're going to stop here so we can come over here and get these triangles. Because if I went all the way to the bottom, then it's going to be hard to come back here without doing a lot of backtracking. So let's go down. Here. Now we're going to come over. And since these small triangles are attached, we're just going to go ahead and stitch them all at the same time. Back up here, and you'll see that we're going to end up right where we left off to go around these so that we can continue on. So I haven't lifted the pencil yet. So now let's come down here. Now we're ready to go around this large triangle. Before we get out of this area, and there's my puppy barking again. We're going to come up around this triangle and across. And back down. That'll get us right back to where we started from before we went around this small triangle. Now we're going to come across. Now we're going to come up the side of the large triangle, but we're going to stop right here. So now we can go around these triangles. So I'm going to come up here. Go across. That brings us back to where we started from. Now we're going to come up finish the large triangle. Now we're going to come up this triangle, finish that one. Now if you recall, we started right here and we start going around these. So let's keep on going up around this small triangle and over to where we started. Now, one of the questions that everybody had when we were doing this was, how are we going to keep these prairie points from flapping? That's going to be our next trick. So we're going to start right where we're at here. And do you remember the upside down eaves? We're going to do one of those right here. So that takes care of that prairie point. Now let's get this thread cut out of the way. Now I'm going to, instead of filling these in with the eaves like is shown on your road map, I'm going to use a different fill. Now you can use pebbles, you can use the meandering stitch, you can use a straight up and down stitch, you can use the little paisleys, whatever your heart desires. But what we want to do is we want to push the batting down in these light areas so that our triangles are able to puff up. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a small meandering stitch. So I can spell out all my secret messages. And I'm going to work my way over here so I can do this section next. Now, as I'm doing this, I want to keep in mind that I want to end up right about here. So I'm going to make sure that when I'm doing my meandering, that's where I'm headed towards, so that I can end up exactly where I need to be, and that's right about here. Because what I want to do now is a 1/4 of an inch seam or stitch from the edge around this prairie point. So I can make sure I'm at the 1/4 inch by putting my foot right up against the edge. Now, we're going to take our ruler, which I have buried in here somewhere. Now, if I put the ruler over here, it's going to push that fabric, so that's not good. So that's why I wanted to have my ruler right up against the edge, because if I put the ruler parallel to the edge of this prairie point, that will give me my 1/4 of an inch stitching line. So I'm going to stitch from here, and I'm going to stitch all the way to the base of that until my foot hits the edge of that. That will give me a 1/4 of an inch away from this side. So here we go. Okay, got that done. Now we're going to put our foot down again and come back up the other side. Okay, so now I have that done. Now I do want to use the inverted E again, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to walk across here, and now I'm free to do my stippling again. or my meandering, whatever you want to call it. And again, I want to aim so I can come over here. So that's how I'm planning my meandering stitch. When I get over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I want to aim so that I'll come up either on this side or this side so I can do that E again. So here we go. I don't want to get too close to the edge because when I do that E, I'm still going to have to come back over one way or the other. So I want to make sure I can work my way back out again. Okay, so we're at this point right now. We're just going to kind of hold that point down. And we're going to do our upside down E and work our way back over to the other side. Now we're going to meander out of there, and we're going to meander into the next section. And we're going to keep on going in that manner, always thinking ahead, where am I going to go next? After I get this area done, I'll come over and do this area. Then I'll come down here, I'll do the E and do this area. And I'll work out so that I can get into this area, and so on and so forth. So just draw this out with your finger. Try to figure out how I can get from one place to another without lifting that pencil. As you can see, I have greatly sped up the stitching speed. And I just want to let this run so you can see the thought process that you have to go through. I want to go from this area into the next area. So I plan where that stippling or meandering is going to end to get me where I want to go. Now I want to go into the other triangular area, and I also want to come down and do this E in the prairie point. Now I can go ahead and fill in this area, knowing that I want to head towards the next section. Now I'm going to stop here and get my ruler, get my foot positioned against the edge of the prairie point, stitch both sides here. Now I'm going to stop and do the inverted E, and now I'm free to continue on with the meandering, and I'm going to work over to the top white triangle right there. Now let's go ahead and do the E in the small prairie point while we're here. We can fill in this meandering stitch here. We want to aim towards the corner on the right so we can go down to the next triangular area. And this is how we think through the whole quilting process in this block. That way you'll never have to stop to tie off threads. We're just going to always think where we want to go next. You don't have to do it this fast, of course, but you want to think through your stitching process. So now we're going down into this big area. We could go down to the lower triangle where my thumbs are, or if we were smart, we'd stitch across to the other large square white area so that we don't have to do any backtracking. So we'll fill this in, but now we'll aim towards the lower white triangle so we can take care of that. We're going to come over here, and we're going to get ourselves positioned to do the E stitch. Now we can fill in this block. And just that easily we were able to do this entire block without any back stitching or thread tie-offs at all. That's why I redid the block.